Good evening and welcome to Pez of the Mind. I'm your host, Marcus Shadow. Joining me, holding the movie we're reviewing, is James Phoenix. And we're reviewing No Renewal. No, I mean, we're reviewing Superman the movie. The 1978 one starring Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder and the late, great Gene Hackman. May he rest in peace. The original 1978 movie. We are actually reviewing the digitally remastered audio now in 5-foot remix for 5.1 surround sound, Richard Donner cut version of the movie. Because he added about 8 minutes more and more of the council in the beginning and more of Lex failing to kill Superman.
Also, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't think so, you haven't gotten there yet. You're getting ahead of yourself. You didn't kill Gene Hackman yet.
Oh? I thought he passed away.
Nope. He's 86.
Fair enough. I thought he was dead. My bad.
No, you haven't done that yet. Again, you're ahead of you're ahead of your schedule. Calm down.
Maybe I'm from the future.
No. But he did retire from acting about 6 years ago.
Fair enough. But anyway, yes. So this movie. Let's start with Mr. Phoenix. What did you think of the movie? Does it still hold up?
I am not sure I've actually watched this all the way through till now.
Fair enough.
The parts of it I definitely recognized, but there were parts I didn't, and not just that extra 8 extended minutes that they put back in.
Fair enough. So, since this is the first time you've seen it all the way through, then what did you think?
It's alright. It's an 80s movie. What do you expect? Well,
78.
Late 70s, but almost the 80s.
Did you think it was a good movie, or did you think it was a bad movie?
It was definitely a good movie. Obviously, by today's standards, the effects look a little cheesy, but that's to be expected. Not all the effects, though, but some. And screen bounce around as I'm talking. But yeah, no. A very good movie. The story was good. The acting was good. Like I said, some cheesy effects, and there were some dated stuff in the movie, but again, to be expected, given how old the movie is. Yeah, overall, I enjoyed the movie. I liked it.
Fair enough. I too really like this movie. It is a classic movie, and for good reason. Well, of course, this movie is not without its flaws. Of course, biggest flaw, Lex Luthor. He was good. They got a lot of Lex. He was very much Lex, but they didn't make him a corporate businessman. They made him kind of. I don't like the fact they made him a small-time criminal. I don't like the fact they made him a criminal outright, because Lex isn't evil. He's just misguided. And
it depends on the version of Lex you're talking about.
Well, most versions of Lex, it's his agenda is humanity. So the way he goes about doing it may not necessarily be good, but he's not inherently an evil person. He's a criminal, yes, but he's not.
I saw another movie a few weeks ago. He looked pretty much straight up evil.
Yeah, and why do you think people hated that movie? There's a reason for it.
And yet it still made a ton of money. And the critics hated it. The fans didn't. There's a difference.
A lot of fans did. But anyway, I didn't like the fact that they started him as a criminal. I didn't like the fact they made him, they had him hiding out in a sewer, for God's sake. This is Lex Luthor. What the hell?
He wasn't in a sewer. He was in a train station.
True, but still, he's like underground. He should be in the top of a fucking skyscraper overlooking a company. Or in the White House, depending on your version of Lex.
Yeah, but it's much harder to set up an elaborate death trap in either of those places.
Not really. Not if you have an entire fucking tech facility behind you developing said death trap.
Yeah, but when you suddenly start developing a massive death trap, everybody that's supposed to be blind to the evil face of your company suddenly gets really suspicious.
Not when everyone else in your company is evil. Why do you think LexCorp is
But
so
the-
successful?
But they're not evil. That's the thing.
But no, I didn't like the fact that that his entire motivations were completely off for this movie, which is sad because the character of Lex is like spot on. He is so Lex.
I thought he had pretty good motivation in this movie, honestly.
His motivation was he wanted real estate. How is that a Lex Luthor motivation?
Because real estate is big business, and Lex Luthor is a businessman first and foremost.
Yeah, but he's not into real estate. He's into weapons manufacturing and science.
He is, but you have to realize something else. This was 1978.
True.
In 1978, that whole, science wasn't really an industry. It wasn't a thing
True.
back then.
True.
Back then science was, Buck Rogers shit. They didn't have that. Oh, maybe that's a little too far back, but you get the idea. Science wasn't a big thing the way it was then. It wasn't until the 80s that everything became evil mad science. So,
true. I guess for the time it worked.
Yeah, for a real estate plan made a lot of sense back then.
Now, the thing I did like, though, is the plan he came up with.
It was a classic villain plot.
Yeah, the thing I do like about the plan he came up with was very much a Lex Luthor plan. I was like, yeah, Lex would totally do this.
Totally.
I know one of the complaints a lot of people have had with this incarnation of Lex is that he's too goofy and stuff. But going back to rewatch it, he is not goofy at all. Hackman played it completely straight. It's the people around him that were goofy. Luthor was fucking Luthor.
Kind of, yeah.
Now, in the later movies, he got kind of goofy, I'll admit that. But in this movie, no. This was straight up Luthor. Don't know if I like the fact that they kind of turned him into your generic, stereotypical crime boss from ye old cop drama. I mean, seriously, look at his setup. He's basically a Ninja Turtle at this point, down in the fucking train station. He's like hiding out. He's got the bumbling oaf kind of henchman, and then he's got the arm candy chick who's the airhead. I mean, that's your stereotypical.
She wasn't an airhead. She was a lot smarter than Otis.
She was smarter than Otis, but she was still kind of the airhead. She was like the airhead with the heart of gold. That's what she was supposed to be.
A little.
Yeah, but she was basically the eye candy for Lex Luthor, and I'm like,
well, yes, obviously.
I was like, oh, come on, he's supposed to be Lex Luthor, and you turned him into small time, like, below Harvey Dent. I'm like, come on, dude, really?
No, not really, because he was Lex Luthor. That's the thing. That's what Lex Luthor would do if in that situation.
I suppose.
You have to realize something else that they established is that we don't know Luthor's backstory.
This is true. This is very true.
Because in the first scene where they introduced Luthor, they introduced it by having cops following Otis because Lex Luthor is incredibly wanted by the police.
Yeah, which was the other thing that I was like, really? Because that's the other thing Lex Luthor is never, and that's wanted by the police. The police never harass Luthor. They know he's done bad stuff, but they don't have enough evidence to do anything about it, so therefore they never harass him. Because he's a legitimate businessman.
Well.
The only person who ever really harasses him is Superman, and sometimes Maggie Sawyer of the SCU, but that's neither here nor there.
Who of the who?
Maggie Sawyer of the MCU, Metropolis, or is it MCU? Like Metropolis, like Special Crimes Unit or whatever.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of like Metropolis's version of Jim Gordon, basically.
Fair enough. But, yeah, I thought this was a good Lex. He was a good, goofy, evil villain for this movie. It worked. And he is meant to be Lex Luthor as we know him. But remember, the majority of the development of the Lex Luthor we know took place after this movie was made.
Yeah. But like I said, I like the character of Lex in this movie. I like how he was portrayed. Hackman did a great job. And he felt like Lex.
Totally.
Like, oh, no, Superman, don't open the box. I told you not to open the box.
Yeah.
That's totally Lex, dude. It's like, yeah, Lex, the master of misdirection, most definitely.
Yep.
Also like the fact that he's hiding out in the train station, yet somehow he has enough fundage to put together fucking NASA command. I'm like, the fuck? Who are you, Batman?
Well, it's well established that he may be an incredibly wanted criminal, but Lex Luthor has money. Obviously, he obviously runs his money in the way most criminals do, and that's by hiding it in a lot of fraudulent fake companies and things that people don't know are associated with you. So he has access to a lot of money for these plans. I point out to you that for this plan to work, he not only had to get an automobile, blow it up, but he then also pulled a giant mobile home out of truck out of his ass.
True. This is
Plus,
very
somehow
true.
managed to purchase the real estate. Plus, I point out to you again, he was purchasing vast swaths of desert real estate.
True. For cheap.
For cheap, but still, it's going to cost money.
Yep. I would also like to say the entire crux of his plan is probably, aside from the clothing and the dialogue, completely totally dates this movie. Because his plan completely hinges on the San Andreas Fault, which at the time of this movie's creation was the big thing in science and nature at the time, if I recall, from what I've heard. So,
It's still pretty big.
It is, but I mean, that's when, the scientists and stuff really realized, oh, there's this big ass fucking fault line going down California and shit's going to happen. And that's when everyone was like talking about it. People aren't talking about it as much now. It's still pretty big, but they're not talking about it as much as back then because that's when they discovered it. So it's very topical. That's what I'm trying to say. San Andreas thing.
The Rock made a movie about it last year.
That doesn't mean people are talking about it. It just means they decided to make a movie out of it.
But they were talking about the movie. They're making a sequel.
True. But I really, really like the origin
Which,
story.
ironically, in that movie, the end result was basically Lex Luthor's plan, just on a smaller scale. Because they did take out all of California, but that movie did end with San Francisco and everything from that chunk of land being an island.
Fair enough. I didn't see that movie. Kind of wanted to, though.
I didn't see it either, but I read the description.
Fair enough.
It looked like a generic action movie, and I didn't really care.
Fair enough. But I really liked the origin story that they presented. They spent quite a bit of time on the origin story, and I liked that. It didn't feel boring to me at all.
No, it was very entertaining. I didn't like I didn't like the lack of set design.
Well, it's not like they had
Just stick crystals everywhere. We'll pretend it's an alien planet. Nobody cares.
Well, A, it's not like they had Lex Luthor money, and B, while, if you look at how Krypton was portrayed...
Not like that. Lex Luthor money. Oh, hang on a minute. Right here. You see this symbol right here by my finger?
Yes.
That's Lex Luthor money.
It is now, not in 1978.
They were still a damn successful studio. But yeah, fair enough.
I think in 1978, wasn't Warner Brothers still owned by like Turner Broadcasting or some shit?
I do not know.
Because I'm pretty sure they split off from another company, and when they became actual Warner Brothers, that's when they started getting money. I mean, it was because it was like Time Warner back then.
It's possible.
So they had wrestling money, but it's not like he was going to fund this thing.
Actually, I think Warner Brothers owned Turner, not the other way around.
Fair enough. But that's when they got big. But anyway, I actually... Okay, if you look at Krypton in the comics, it's obviously a futuristic city, blah, blah, blah. I kind of like what they did in this movie because by making... Well, it kind of made no sense. By making Krypton a lot of crystalline structures and revolve around crystals, it actually ties in the Fortress of Solitude and explains why the Fortress of Solitude looks the way it does.
True. You are
I kind of liked how they tied that in. I was like, oh, that's kind of clever that they did that.
It was kind of clever that they did that.
I also like they set up the sequel without being 100% sure there was going to be a sequel.
Yep.
With the Phantom Zone.
Yep.
Although I have to say the spaceship was a little bit weird. It's like this big fucking chandelier that flew out into space, but
yeah, kind of.
It's like sea urchin, go! Whoosh! Or space urchin, I guess.
Something like that.
Though I do find it a little bit weird that it's like, I'm going to teach you while you're flying for the 3 years or 7 years where you're flying through space. It's like, okay.
3 years. 3 years.
But, they lifted a lot of the origin story right out of the comics, which I liked.
Yep.
I don't know if I liked or disliked the fact they put him into a space urchin instead of an actual spaceship, but what do you think?
It was unique. It looked like the crystal and structure everything else was made out of on the planet. It made sense.
True. Though I do have to say, I have to ask, how the fuck did Superman know to take that green crystal and go to the fucking North Pole?
Well, he found the green crystal because he heard it. He heard something calling to him, and he found it in the buried in the barn.
Wait, that's how he got the crystal, yeah.
Yeah. How you would take it over to the North Pole? I don't know, but presumably, with the way these crystals were obviously being worked and programmed, convincing the computers, it was obviously a biological thing. Clearly, it probably somehow gave Superman an instinctual knowledge of what to do. I would assume.
Fair enough. I also found it interesting that he had to get the crystal to pure ice for it to activate. I'm like, oh, that's convenient.
Yep.
Well, I thought that worked, with the Fortress of Solitude. Also found it interesting, Jor-El called it the Fortress of Solitude. I'm like, really, Jor-El? Really? But I like that Jor-El was helping him. I thought it worked. I love the character development they gave Superman in this.
Indeed.
And still, Christopher Reeve is still the best Superman. He looks like Superman. He acts like Superman.
He is a good Superman.
I love the character of Superman in this movie. This is a Superman that a lot of the detractors of Man of Steel want in the modern day.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is Superman, but I also love that they gave Superman angst. They gave Superman the inner turmoil of what do I do? The whole Jor-El is saying you're forbidden from interfering in the path of human history, and then you have Jonathan Kent saying, well, you were put on this planet for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what that reason is, but you're put on this planet for a reason.
It is forbidden to interfere with the events of human history. But given that I clearly don't even understand the time frame between which you left our home planet and got there, and I can't even pronounce the planet's name properly, what the hell do I know?
Pretty much. Although it was a little weird to me that he just kind of emerges from the hyperbolic time chamber. Yes, that's what I'm calling it, because that's effectively what it is. But when he emerges from that in the Superman costume, I'm like, wait, Jor-El gave him the costume? What?
Yep.
It's like, I thought Krypton was supposed to be a planet of science, not magic.
There is a very fine line between the two when it comes down to it.
So Marvel would have you believe. But this isn't Marvel, this is DC. There is no fine line.
Yeah, there's a fine line. This is science. As we've seen in the last two movies, there is no magic.
Fair enough.
Closest thing we have to magic is a man who lives underwater.
That's probably still Atlantean science.
Probably.
And evolution, but which is science. But yeah, I don't know. I think.
But yeah,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was a little confused because it was it was established afterward when they were talking about Superman. Oh, he was. Okay, so there was Superman's so okay, Krypton blew up in Earth year 1948. Superman got here 3 years later. Fair enough. Except somewhere in Jor-El's droning on speech, didn't he say something about by the time you hear this, I will have been dead for thousands of years or some shit like that? Yes. Yeah. So what the fuck? Did he think Earth was that much farther away?
Well, like I said, hyperbolic time chamber. Remember when Clark went into that chamber where Jor-El was teaching him everything and made him Superman, he basically only aged like maybe 4 years. But he said when you emerge, it will have been 12 years. So obviously time flows differently for Kryptonians and for Krypton in general. So he probably pulled Kal-El or Clark into some sort of Kryptonian thing that accelerated, that, made time pass.
Maybe, except we know time doesn't work that differently because between the conversation with Jor-El and Krypton, we know that Krypton runs on a 28-hour day. So it ain't that different.
I don't know. You'd have to ask the writers about that one. So what do you think of Lois Lane?
Just good. Typical damsel in distress, but with a little bit of moxie.
Am I the only one who found it creepy that Clark Kent was attracted to her?
Why?
Did you not notice he saw her when she was like fucking 8 years old and he was like 17?
No, I missed that.
She was on that train. She was the one who saw him running next to the train.
Oh, okay, I missed that part.
Because when she turns around to her mother's like, Lois Lane, you stop that right now. And I'm like, okay, that just got creepy. Because it's established at that point he's fucking high school. And Lois Lane's like fucking 8 years old. I'm like, that's creepy.
Yeah, but you have to remember, they didn't actually meet at the time.
No, but I'm just saying, if you look at that, if that's supposed to establish Lois Lane and Clark and their ages, you look at that age difference, that's kind of creepy. Because if Lois Lane is supposed to be like 30 at that time, that means Clark is like fucking like 45, 50. That's creepy as shit.
Not really. Learn math. It's about assuming that Clark was, say, 16 at the time, that's a 7-year gap. And it's really not that unusual for relationships these days.
I suppose. It's a little creepy to me that high school looking at like basically elementary school girl. I'm like, oh, that's creepy.
True, but like I said, it's not that. I put it to you this way. That's less of a gap in age than between us.
Really?
How old are you, 35?
36.
36? 29. It's exactly the same gap, actually.
Fair enough. But yeah, I like all the little things they put in from the movie, or from the comics and stuff. I thought that was cool.
Indeed, indeed.
And also, now having seen this movie again, all those people who wondered in Batman v Superman where the Daily Planet got money for a helicopter, there's your fucking answer. They own one.
Which still doesn't answer where did they get the money to own and operate a helicopter?
They're the biggest newspaper in the city. They have Lex Luthor money.
Yes, in 1978. No newspaper in the world has that kind of money in 2016.
New York Times does.
Makes sense. In that, not at all.
Fair enough. Am I the only one who felt that at the end they should have shown Superman going back to capture Luthor?
Why?
I don't know, because he just kind of shows up at the penitentiary with Luthor and dumbass in hand. I'm like, oh, I kind of wanted to see him just bust through the walls and be like, Luthor, I'm here to take you in.
And what would that have accomplished? Because all he was going to show up, they wouldn't have been able to do anything to him. He would have just picked him up and flew out. It would have been boring. Luthor's only weapon got thrown down the drain.
Because you get to see the hero actually defeat the bad guy instead of just kind of show up with him. It's like, oh. Because half the fun of the Luthor-Superman relationship is when Luthor and Superman tee off against each other, when they confront each other, and you don't see that confrontation. You just see Luthor, a defeated old man in the hands of a god. That's kind of, it's like, no. I want to see them go at it.
Well, too bad.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because really, Luthor wasn't going to put up a fight. They didn't have mech suits back then.
No.
It would have just been, boom, here I am, grab, fly away. It would have been boring.
It still would have been satisfying, at least for me.
It was satisfying to see him dropped off at the prison and Luthor rips his hair off.
True. Also, am I the only one who yelled at the screen when Superman saves Lois? That's not how time works.
Well, we all know that, but it was a really cool and emotional movie effect.
No, not that. After that, I was perfectly fine with the whole re-rotating Earth, blah, blah, blah. I know that's not how it works, but it's cool and okay, comic book logic. But I was referring to when he shows up at Lois's car and nothing happens. I'm like, that's not how time reversal works. It's not like you stopped the event from happening just because you reverse time. The event still happens. You've just given yourself the time to stop said event. But he shows up and there's no event to stop. He just shows up and is like, sup. I'm like, where's the rock slide? It's not like the rock slide disappeared because you reverse time. That's not how time works.
True.
Where's the big split in the road that fucking pulled Lois's car? That never happened. The road's perfectly fine. I'm like, no, you didn't just make things disappear from time. You're not that godly, Superman.
My understanding, I could be wrong about this, but my viewing was that Lois hadn't gotten to where the rock slide was going to be yet, because I believe didn't she get her car started, go further, and then get caught in the rock slide?
True, but it's the same road.
It is the same road, but the split and the rock slide were not in that area. By Superman having her get out of her car and delaying her trip, she wouldn't be there when the split and the rock slide occurred.
Fair enough.
Because the split conveniently stopped directly under her car, if you didn't notice. So it obviously was a randomly occurring thing. It wasn't necessarily the entire length of this road.
True, but when she looked up in her rearview mirror, she could see the split coming down the road. When Superman showed up, there was no split. There should have at least been a split. Superman would be like, nope, you're not going anywhere, split.
I don't know.
I don't know. It just seemed weird that he just showed up and nothing. And I'm like, okay, then. So why did you reverse time if nothing was going to happen anyway?
Because he had to reverse time so that nothing would happen.
I don't know. I'm not like that. Time doesn't work that way. When you make time go forward again, it still goes forward. The events still happen.
It goes forward, but the event hadn't happened at that point yet.
And he still left them out there, which means how are they going to avoid it?
Yeah, but Lois was out of her car and not near where the event was occurring, number one, and presumably he sent someone to pick them up.
I guess. I don't know. It just seemed a little weird to me.
A little bit, but...
I think it would have looked, and I think from a cool standpoint, it would have made Superman look cooler if he reversed time, flew in, and like picked up the car and flew off with it or something to prevent it from falling into the ditch and being pummeled by rocks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, I saved Lois. Okay, now I can go save the other people.
Yeah. Also, by the way, fuck you, Superman. So Superman is able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Where this is, as much as it makes no scientific sense, this is established as being a thing in the movie. So, Superman, if you're able to do this,
yeah,
instead of doing all this and then just flying back in to save Lois and everything, wouldn't you just go a little further and, I don't know, stop the fucking missile?
This is true.
Because, yeah, you saved a lot of lives, but there's probably still a lot of dead people, and we know there's a significant amount of property damage, all of which you could have prevented.
True.
But you decided, no, I have to think with the little head instead of the big one.
Well, also, wouldn't that look weird if there was two Supermen on the radar at the same time?
It probably would have, but he's Superman. Would anybody have questioned it?
Good point.
He's Superman. He would have been like, I'm that fast, and people would have believed that.
Everyone except Lex Luthor, which is the entire crux of the plan, is that he's not that fast.
Yeah, but the thing is, all he has to do is be on the radar 2 places. Lex Luthor sees this on his radar and is like, what the fuck? Luthor thinks he's that fast, and Luthor thinks that, Luthor loses all confidence in his ability to beat Superman.
True.
It would have helped for later.
True. But that's what makes Superman more human, I guess.
I suppose.
Also, what did you think of the casting for younger Superman?
Not bad.
Don't know if you noticed that they seem to cast people who actually looked like Christopher Reeve in various stages of adolescence.
Yeah, they did do a good job with that. I didn't think the kid that came out of the pod looked like Christopher Reeve, though.
Fair enough.
But the rest looked like Christopher Reeve.
Well, at least you could believe that it's the same person.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
So, I think this movie, especially if you go and watch the version we watched with the digital remastering and all that, and the audio remastering, I think it does still hold up. Yeah, there's going to be some things that date it, but on the whole, because it looks great in the high def remastering, it really does.
It does look good.
But the one thing about this movie, and it made me think, and it made me reminisce, was the music. Because they don't make music like that anymore. And, it made me think about the theme song and the relevance of the theme song and whether it's necessary or not. Because I know we've had discussions about this before, specifically on like the TV front. I believe, like we had talks with like Chris the Mole, and he's like, he likes some of the more modern TV shows where there is no theme song. It's just a little quick thing and the logo or whatever, and then some of the actors and actresses, so you can get on with the TV show. And I can understand that for a TV show, but at the same time, just hearing this music again with the imagery of just Superman flying in and stuff, just made me think about TV shows and movies I'd seen growing up. And when I was growing up, it was all about the theme songs. And it made me realize.
Well, yeah, of course, it's all about the theme songs when you were growing up. When you were growing up, they just invented music.
Oh. But no, I mean, they had the good writing and stuff like that, but it made me realize a lot of what people remember is the music. It's that one theme. If you go to almost anyone in the street, maybe even younger fans, and you say Superman music, go, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna get this song, because there's nothing memorable from Man of Steel. There's nothing really memorable from Superman Returns. Although I think that movie, they used this song because it was
they used this song because this was literally the direct sequel to Superman 4.
Right, but like Man of Steel, or even the animated series. The animated series theme was good, but this one is one people remember. If you go to almost anybody and you say Batman song, go, they're not gonna go back and say, dun 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 dun, dun from Dark Knight. No. They're going to do animated series, which is basically the Danny Elfman theme from the Michael Keaton Batman, because that's the iconic one. That's the one when you hear that song, Batman.
I'm going to have to correct you on that. No.
What?
Na 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 Batman.
That too,
Batman,
but again, iconic.
Batman.
There's that too, yeah. Well, I would say most of the modern kids, they're going to think Danny Elfman because of the animated series. But yes, there is the Adam West one too. I stand corrected.
Actually, it depends on your definition of modern kids. If you mean my generation, yes. If you mean modern kids, they're going to do the song from the Brave and the Bold cartoon.
Maybe. What, Gray and Blue?
No, that was just a song they used in the show.
But see, that's my point. When you have a theme like that, and you put the effort to have a centralized theme that's catchy, you remember it. I've been thinking about it with movies these days. That's one of my biggest issues with the modern movie, is that the music, it's good music. The composers are really good, but it all sounds so generic. There's nothing that you really remember from it. There's nothing that just grabs you like this John Williams Superman thing. That's one thing John Williams has always been great at, is creating that one song for a movie that just grabs you and doesn't let go. And it kind of makes me sad that composers these days don't do that. They don't make that one song that grabs you. And it's primarily because the movie makers want the generic action stuff.
Some of them, yeah.
And so I'm like, oh. And it just, I don't know. And maybe also because it's just a little nostalgia for me, just because it was my childhood. It's what I grew up with, like the Superman movie, that when I heard that theme, I saw all the bright blue and the red and the yellows, Superman standing there, and Christopher Reeves looked like Superman. I don't know. What are you doing?
Nothing.
Why are you rolling your eyes like that? What are you trying to tell me?
Fanboy.
A little bit, but I don't know. It's just when I heard that song, it just brought it all back for me. I was just like, yeah, that this is why, music is so good. And I miss this kind of music. I miss this link between the music and the movie or the TV.
That's certainly a good thing. The only thing that I would say about Christopher Reeve compared to his comic book counterpart, even at that time, is that he was a little underbuilt. But otherwise, yes, he was Superman to a T.
Maybe a little bit, but I would also argue they were trying to, balance Clark Kent. And if you look at him as Clark Kent, he looks a little big for Clark Kent.
Height-wise, yes.
Well, just build-wise, he looked huge, but because of the way he acted,
when he's wearing the suit, he looked kind of like a lanky dude. He's just tall.
Fair enough. Which is funny because Superman is supposed to be tall.
Well, yeah, that's the deal. He's tall, but he's not that tall.
Also, I didn't realize how tall Christopher Reeve was until he said how tall he was. I was like, damn, you're tall, dude.
Yeah, Christopher Reeve was a tall dude.
He was like, I'm 6'4". I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. He was tall.
Yeah. Superman.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess you could call it fanboy. It was just, like I said, the music is what did it for me. It's just that put it over. I was like, I miss this. And because I was surprised it still held up, though. I mean, all the dated stuff aside, the clothing, the colloquialisms, the technology. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of cop dramas and stuff from the 70s, like TJ Hooker or whatever. But do you recall if cops ever ran around with fucking CB radios in their pockets?
Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I don't know if they did that early, but that's what cops do now.
Well, cops have like cell phones now, or they have the walkie-talkies, which is fine. But that one cop, the one that got killed, he fucking pulled like the mouth thing from like a CB radio that you'd find in a CB radio in like a fucking truck. He pulled that out of his pocket. I'm like, the hell?
That's what cops use.
I thought they used more like the walkie-talkie, but fair enough.
No. They'll use that if they're running an immediate area situation, but for general communication to dispatch while they're out on the beat, you always see the cable coming from here to about over here. It comes across the upper chest area, so you can grab it with your dominant hand, like go like this to talk into it. It's always pinned here with a cable running to over here, and then I believe down to the belt where they have the actual unit is. So that's what
it's the microphone for the walkie-talkie. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, the cops always had that little radio, which in that case, this dude, instead of having it pinned, he actually had it inside the coat, which is fair enough. And I don't know if it was common for cops to carry portable stuff like that back in those days. I don't know about the 70s, but I know today that's what cops wear.
Fair enough. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That'd be attached to the walkie-talkie. But yeah, so that's my take on Superman. I did rather enjoy rewatching it again and reliving the memories of having seen it for the first time. I mean, the tagline for this movie, this movie will have you believe that a man can fly, and it's totally true. And as you pointed out, the effects, while are dated effects, obviously, still hold up. I mean, you watch it, you believe a man can fly.
Pretty much.
The Superman himself effects, really, really well done.
Oh, yeah.
I also like the fact that he gradually got his powers, where he's like, well, you don't have your full powers yet. I'm like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Right out of the comics. Like, a lot right out of the comics,
Yeah.
I like they recreated the Daily Planet globe. Like, you look at the practical effect of the globe. That thing is awesome. It looks like the Daily Planet globe with the spinning and everything.
Yeah, they look cool.
So, your final thoughts on Superman 1978?
Final thoughts. This is a good movie. A little bit dated, but it's expected to be. But if you want to see a real, genuine Superman, a Superman that is good, kind, stands for values, and inspires hope, this is the Superman you want. Definitely go give it a watch.
I can agree with that. Pick up the collection if you don't have it, if you find it, because it's, there's many collections out now. There's the one that came out with Superman Returns. There's the one, I think there's one with Man of Steel now.
Probably.
So find some collections, some digitally remastered ones. It's great. Superman 3 and 4 kind of sucked. Forewarn you guys right now. Number 2 is often heralded as the best one. Personally, I think the first one's the best one. The second one was good. I like the first one better. That's
the second one, the original or the Richard Donner cut?
I haven't actually watched the Richard Donner cut. I have it. I haven't watched it, though.
Fair enough.
I hear the Richard Donner cut's better.
Mm-hmm.
Because I heard that the studio stuff, as they do, kind of fucked with his shit.
Yep.
But, the second one gets you kneel before Zod. How can that be bad?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think this is the Superman that has stood the test of time and will continue to stand the test of time. I mean, it says it all when you can go on the internet now and look up stuff from the Man of Steel, and there'll be a lot of people my age, your age, maybe even younger or older, who will take Henry Cavill, Superman, put it to the John Williams score, because that's how timeless that score is. That's how iconic that song
Yep.
is, and how tied to Superman it is.
Oh yeah, very true.
Because that's the Superman everyone knows. That's the Superman everyone wants to see, because to them
Yep.
that is Superman, which makes sense because they pulled it directly out of the comics.
Yep.
Literally, who he is.
Hmm.
So yeah, as you said, Jim, give this movie a watch. If you're looking for something that's just at its core Superman, this is the movie for you. You know, kind of turn your brain off a little bit. Don't worry so much about the dating, because it is dated. But it's well written, well acted, musical score. I mean, it's John Williams. I mean, that's all I have to say. It's John Williams.
Yeah, I'd give it definitely a 9 out of 10. You know, the datedness hurts a little bit, but still a great movie.
Absolutely. I completely 100% agree.
Take us home.
So that was Superman 1978, the remastered version. I was your host, Marcus Shadow, for James Phoenix. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, and join us next month for more movie hijinks. Night, everybody.